This is how to play Gravy Bones in Sage. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm back with another Flesh and Blood Sage deck video. This time talking about Gravy Bones, my favorite leader of last year, I would say. No, not really close, besides maybe Mario. But, still, I could not play this deck in Classic Constructed because it was a little bit too expensive. But hey, that's why we got Sage. Now, of course, Gravy isn't the best deck in Sage. However, I think, like Dromai, there's a way how to play and win with this guy in Sage. So, let's talk about the deck, and then let's talk about how you win with the deck. Because it's a bit hard. But hey, getting things started, I got actual Gravy Bones, the captain of the ship himself, a 4 intellect, 20 health pirate necromancer hero that at instant speed can tap himself, destroy a gold you control, to then draw a card and discard a card. It's a simple effect. It gets a little bit of filtering going on in the hand, which, you know, is always valuable. But on top of that, you can get some stuff into the bin. That's really good. And, you know, yellows in the bin. Specifically those allies in the bin. I think that's pretty good because if a blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, maybe through Gravy Bones' own ability, or you just playing a blue card, go again, letting the, it resolve and go into the bin, then allows you to play cards with Watery Grave from your graveyard this turn. That's really powerful. That's really good, especially if you get multiple, allies out. Force your opponent, not threaten them. I mean, you can threaten them with the allies, but force them to deal with your board. That is the best way to, get tempo with this deck. Force your opponent to actually care about you. Because a lot of the decks in, Sage are a bit quick. Think of, some really strong Briars. Some really good, Chains. Those are fast decks. So you gotta slow them down and make them care about you before you can, kill them. Yeah, Gravy Bones. You gotta force them to care about you. And besides the leader itself, you got the Compass of Sunken Depths, which at instant speed can tap itself to look at the top card of your deck, and the first card with Watery Grave you play from your yard each turn gets go again. That's a bit nice because, again, getting to play multiple allies, it's a bit good, it's a bit powerful. And, you like that. You just like allies. You like to play allies, and you like to attack with the allies. And when you have the ability to do things, you want to do a lot of things. Because, again, you want to make your opponent care about you. It's like, I'm doing a lot over here. You should care about my board a little bit, not my life as much. And, I can slow you down. I can slowly drag out this game until I can kill you. Anyways. Then, besides that, there's also the equipment. Washed up hand, only in the deck to block, basically. It's a Blade Break arm piece. At 1 at defense, you can discard or destroy the top card of your deck. And if that card had Watery Grave, it gets +2 defense. A piece of equipment gets +2 defense. So that's another reason that, the whole Compass of Sunken Depths, look at the top. That's a bit good. Also because, you draw a card off of the gravy, so getting to see what's on top. Maybe it's that Watery Grave card I need in the bin, or maybe that's that blue that I need to get put into the bin somehow. Either way. But anyways, Washed Up Grave, it's a bit of a good card. On top of that, you got Headstone, a 1-block battle-worn headpiece at instant speed can pop itself, destroy the top card of your deck. Again, getting stuff into the bin is pretty powerful. It's pretty good. On top of that, again, if you need a yellow Watery Grave card in the bin to play off of Gravy, you can get one there. And then 2, it's blue. You need blues in the bin. You need to play a blue and then have it go in the bin, or you need to have a blue go in the bin. So, yeah, it works. It's a good part of the deck. We all know that. Then Buccaneer's Bounty. It's not Garland of Sprain. Who would have thought? It's a deck that doesn't have Garland of Sprain because At action speed, you can, pop this, get a resource, and then the effect has go again. So you pop it to get a resource. Same thing as Garland Spring, but worst case scenario, you can block with it for 1 blade break. That's also pretty nice because this deck can be a little bit weak as far as defense goes, which is not great into aggressive decks. However, in emergency situations, having that extra little block with something like this, it can matter. And something else that can matter, Mage Master Boots. It doesn't block, but as an action, you can pay a resource, pop it, then give your next non-attack action card you play this turn, go again. I mean, that's nice. Allowing you to play even more allies potentially. Or play a non-attack action that doesn't have go again, and yeah. But still, Mage Master Boots, it's a good card in the deck. It's a good card in Gravy in general, and if you've ever played this deck before, you know that this is a good card in its package. But then besides that, there's the main deck. And the main deck is kind of split into 3 different categories. One for each color. The reds, kind of, there isn't really anything else to describe them besides the reds. You could describe them as the big boys between Battalion Bark and Swiftwater Sloop, but at the same time you got Saltwater Swell and Golden Tipple, which should be its own, kind of thing to talk about in the deck because that card's so good. Then there's the yellows, the allies, and there's the blues because, you need a lot of them. But getting into the reds first, because why not? I got Battalion Bark, potentially the best card in the entire deck because, oh my god, this thing is good. It is a 4-cost, basically 9 attack, which, it's a big boy. It's a big, strong, beefy monster. Ugh. It's really good. It blocks for 3. It's a 4-cost, comes in for 7, shocks. But if High Tide is active, if there are 2 more blue cards in your pitch zone, it gets +2. That's really cool, especially when you can, play something like a Swiftwater Sloop first, 2-cost, 6 attack, 2 block, that again, as long as there are 2 more blues, as long as High Tide is active, gets go again. You play a Swiftwater Sloop, 6, go again. Battalion Bark, 9, that's 15 damage. That's a little bit of damage. Just a little bit. If you have the ability to do that with 4 or 5 cards, like you play something like a Saltwater Swell, 1 cost, 3 attack, 3 block, would go again, 1 attack, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a blue, you pitch it. And again, another reason that this is a good card, you get to look at the top, it's oh, it's a blue. Well, Saltwater Swell, let's do that whole stupidity. So, it's really nice. So you can play the Saltwater Swell, you have 5 cards. This is your arsenal card or something like that. You play it, you pitch a blue. Then, you activate the top of the thing. You pitch a blue off the top. Then you Saltwater Swell. Then you Battalion Bark. Maybe you pop your chess piece, and now that's only, I want to say, 4 cards. Yeah, technically you used a card off the top of your deck, but whatever. You are doing so much damage potentially with your reds, and that's a lot of the reason that the reds are in the deck, these reds are in the deck, is because you need cards that are just really good 1-2 card monsters that your opponent is ugh, not happy about. Because, 9 damage, that's scary. That's something your opponent has to care about eventually. And also another thing that I want to mention, Saltwater Swell. I got 2 reds, but I also got 2 blues. So I just want to mention that. Like with Golden Tipple, I got 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues. This is realistically the best card in the deck. Why is that? It's a 1-cost, 3 attack, 2 block with go again. 1 attacks, you can discard a yellow card. If you do, you draw a card and then create a gold token. Especially in this format. Because you do not have a lot of ways to make gold in this format. Because of the fact that this is your main way to generate gold is super nice. Because having the ability to use Gravy Bones' first ability, popping a gold, drawing a card, discarding a card, getting that kind of filtering, getting stuff into the bin, having all that engine kind of going, it's a really big part of the deck. And Golden Tipple is especially good in this format because it is basically the only way in this deck to generate gold. It kind of stinks, but, you have 6 of them, so you would think that you draw some. Now, granted, it's not the only way to generate gold, but still, it's a very important card in the deck. But getting past that, I also got all the blues. Now, also, I forgot to mention Battalion Bark. There's also a blue copy. That's pretty cool, too, because the card's absolutely stupid and broken. But, get into the blues. I got a Fabtcg. Speaking of gold generation, there's actually quite a bit of gold generation in the blues, which is nice. But the main way that you're generating it, in my opinion, is through the golden tipples. Now, realistically, you're probably going to do it more with the blues, such as a Fabtcg. Well, kind of. I don't know. So, a Fabtcg here is a 3-pitch, 3-block, 0-cost Pirate Necromancer action with Go Again. Your next Pirate ally attack this turn, Go Again. And the on-hit of creating a gold token. That's pretty sweet. I mean, you like gold. Gold's good, powerful, strong. I've mentioned it earlier. It's good. You like gold. Besides that, there's also Flying High, 3-pitch, 2-block, 0-cost. Generic action will Go Again. Your next attack this turn gets Go Again. If it's blue, it gets +1 power. Again, that's maybe one more reason why the Battalion Bark Blue is running in the deck, because 1, you can give it Go Again, or the regular Battalion Bark, and more easily be able to play like a Swiftflower Sloop into maybe an attack with Barnacle. That could be a really good combo. But so, the Flying High, usually it's just like, hey, let's give a thing Go Again. Let's give a ally that doesn't have Go Again for the attack Go Again. Let's give a Battalion Bark that we need Go Again, Go Again. And if it just so happens to be the blue one, hey, it's a 4-cost A attack, and it's a blue. That's not bad. Oh, by the way, it also has Go Again. I mean, that was pretty solid. But then there's also Jittery Bones, 0-cost to attack, 3-block, 3-pitch. 1 attacks, you can discard a card, destroy the top card of your deck. And if that card had Watery Grave, it gets Go Again. It's mostly in the deck to be a blue 3-block. But if you need to play it, it's also not too bad because, you need to play those blues sometimes. And it can get Go Again, and it can, get stuff into the bin. And that's always good and powerful and strong. Loot the Arsenal and Loot the Hold are also up next, and these are really nice. A Fabtcg is a really awesome card. I love this card, but these two are especially sweet. So these are very similar to the Fabtcgs. They do pretty much the same thing, but instead of giving Go Again, they give a bonus on hit. Besides just creating a gold, you get to, on hit, destroy a card in their arsenal for Loot the Hold. If you do destroy a card in their arsenal, then you get to create a gold token. That is important because your opponent might not always have an arsenal. That's not always as likely. So that could kind of suck sometimes. But, generally speaking, having the ability to threaten your opponent's arsenal, I mean, that effect is always good, pretty much. So, and it's a blue 3-block as well. That's also, good. And then there's also Loot the Hold, which, again, same thing. But instead of destroying a card in their arsenal, it has the much better on hit of forcing them to discard a card. And if they do, then you get to create a gold. So that's a lot more likely way to, 1, create gold, because your opponent's more likely to have cards in hand than a thing in the arsenal. And on top of that, that's also just, generally a better effect, because, less cards in the hand, and less things to block with, because your opponent probably isn't going to be able to block from the arsenal, since D-Reacts aren't really much of a thing in this format. So, it's a pretty solid, stupid card. Besides that, there's also Murderous Rabble, which, is Ravenous Rabble's, better cousin? I don't know. It's a 3-block, 3-pitch, 0-cost, 0 attack. Pirate action would Go Again. That when it attacks, reveals the top card of your deck, gets +X power, where X is the pitch value of the card revealed. There aren't a lot of, reds in this deck. There are 8, so some. About a fourth of the deck. But half of your deck is blues. So you have a 50-50 chance, and, maybe, for a fact what's on top with that compass of yours. But so this is likely coming in for 3, sometimes 2, Go Again. The damage can matter, yes, but what matters more so, in some senses, is that it can be a blue that can go in the bin, threaten some damage on your opponent. That always matters too, and then you can start, doing the Watery Grave shenaniganry. Also, another awesome card in the deck is Portside Exchange. I absolutely love this card. This 3-block, 3-pitch, 0-cost pirate action will go again. So this discard a card, draw a card. If a yellow card was discarded this way, you make a gold token. It's like a golden tipple, but it doesn't attack. It's like a bonus tipple. It's a super awesome tipple because it also blocks for 3, and that's always nice. And it pitches for 3, which is also always nice. And it's a blue that costs nothing to play. That is also super important. The thing that can really suck with Golden Tipple is you're tight on cards because you kind of need to block a lot sometimes when you're playing against your opponent. You might not have that one resource to use. That's why Buccaneer's Bounty is such a good, chess piece. Anything that can pop, get a resource, that's always a good effect in formats like this. But this costing nothing, only basically you need to have 2 cards in hand or this in an arsenal and 1 card in your hand to get full value off of it. A 3-way knife. So there you go. Then I got Restless Bones. This is very similar to the Jittery Bones, except it costs 2 more and has 2 more power. Same card besides that. And it has better art, in my opinion. It's kind of creepier art, but it's cooler art. But anyways, then there's the blue saltwater swell I mentioned earlier. But that's all the blues. It's a lot of blues. But getting past the blues, I got the yellows. One of which is Golden Tipple, but the rest of which are allies. So this is basically the ally section. There are only 8 allies, because you can't have too many allies. Because they don't block for anything, 1. And they can be easy to remove, 2. But you do need them, 3, because you need to have a constant threat or something to force your opponent to, either respect, because consistent damage on your opponent every single turn that is free, basically, unless it's like a Rigor Mortis or a Swabby, in that case, doesn't really cost too much. But still, having like a 1-card 7 every turn can be really dumb. Having a no-card 4 every single turn, your opponent eventually is going to have to respect that and manage that, taking a little bit of pressure off of you, giving you more time to slow the opponent down, and then get out all of their really good stuff, get rid of the tempo on their half of the board, steal it from them, and then slowly kill them. Slowly murder them and make sure that they cannot win. Make sure that they have no more gas. Drain the gas from the tank. One of cards that does that is Barnacle. Probably the best one in the deck, in my opinion. It's between this and Swabby. I prefer this one a little bit more because it costs nothing to attack with, which can be a lot nicer. But so Barnacle is a 2-pitch, 2-cost, 4-attack, 3-health Pirate Necromancer ally. Has Watery Grave, so when it is put into the graveyard from the arena, you gotta turn it face down. That sucks. You can't resurrect it anymore. But as an action, you can tap and attack with Barnacle. A free 4-attack. I mean, you can't complain too much about that. It's a really solid effect. When I first played with Barnacle, way back when this format, or when this High Seas was, pre-release season time, this card, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I prefer Swabby because it's bigger. And I prefer Rigor Mortis because it costs 1 for 6, but it has 1 health. And yes, Swabby also has 3 health, but it's a lot bigger of a target, and your opponent's going to deal with it a lot more likely. Barnacle, lies under the radar a bit. And it costs nothing to attack with, which, again, can be a lot more valuable. Because having the ability, you have nothing in your hand. You've blocked with everything on your previous turn. Swing for 4 at your opponent. Still having that pressure. Your opponent either takes 4 damage or you get cards out of their hand. Either way, that's a victory because with the damage, eventually they're going to have to care. With the getting the cards out of their hand, again, you want to drain the gas from the opponent's tank and then kill them. That's how the deck works. But so besides that, there's also Oyston, which is also really solid, ally. Rigor Mortis is either the worst ally in your deck or the best ally. That's why it's in the deck. And if it's, bad, then you switch it out for the other ally in the sideboard. But Oyston is like a little bit, it's the most Because Rigor Mortis, again, you either switch it out or it's great, and Oyston's always just like, it's good, but it's not insane. So this 2-pitch, they're all 2-pitch, so I'm going to ignore that. But it costs nothing, it has 3 power, and it has 1 health. And as an action, you can attack with it. Again, free ally to attack with, that is nice. It only has 1 health, that does kind of suck. Again, it has Water Grave. But what is really nice is when it does die, you do get to create a gold. That is really cool. Because again, gold generation, it's a big part of the deck. You like having gold and having that ability to use Gravy's ability without, really having to care about too much. That can be really nice. Because with Gravy, you draw a card and then discard a card. You don't need to have any cards in hand to do that. Whereas with stuff like Golden Tipple, you have to have a card in your hand already. You discard a card and then get to draw something. With something like Portside Exchange, you discard something and then draw something. You needed another card in hand in order to get full advantage out of that. With Gravy, you don't need a thing. So having that ability to generate gold and be able to use Gravy's ability without having anything in hand, it can be really nice. And Oyston can generate that gold. So getting something valuable out of its death, really cool. Otherwise, free 3 power attack. That is cool. That is nice. What's more nice, in some senses, is Rigor Mortis. 1 cost 6 power ally that has 1 health. That stinks. But when you're playing against Guardians, that's great. That's where the matchup, that's when you love Rigor Mortis. It's like, alright, opponent, you can kill it, but you only have 1 thing. You have to swing a massive thing into it without go again into it in order to kill it, and I love that. But Rigor Mortis, it costs 1 to attack with. That's awesome. For 6 power, that is absurd in my opinion. It's really cool, but it only has 1 health. That is annoying. But when it's great, it's great. When it sucks, I'll tell you what you switch it out with. But then there's Swabby. Very similar. It costs 3 instead of 1, but it comes in for 7 and it has 3 health. Big bonuses. It does cost 2 to attack with. That can suck. That is probably the biggest downside of this card, is that it costs 2 to attack with. You have a lot of blues, so it's a very simple 1 pitch, play it, don't really need to worry too much. You have enough blues where that doesn't really matter. What sucks is that 2 pitch in order to attack with it. That can be annoying. But being a bit beefier, and your opponent generally respects it more, so your opponent kind of goes into it more often, I just feel like Barnacle lies under the radar. When I don't know. But so, Swabby, it's still a great card. And it generally, does take a little bit of tempo away from your opponent because they do generally direct pressure into it. But, I don't know. I like Swabby, okay? It's a good card. It's not as good as Barnacle. Sometimes Rigor Mortis. But still, it's not as good as Barnacle. Barnacle's my favorite. Swabby's a close second. And he's still really, really solid. But, getting to the sideboard. First and foremost, Limpet Hopalon. When Rigor Mortis sucks, you put in Limpet. This card can be really nice, because it is nice to have Go Again. None of your ally attacks have Go Again. That's another reason why Flying High is such a good card in the deck. But Limpet here has built-in Go Again, because it costs nothing, comes in for 2, it does have 1 health, sure that sucks. But as, having the ability to pay 1, attack with it, with Go Again, that can be cool. Because what you can do is you can spend 1 resource, attack with that for 2, Go Again, and you pitch to blue, you have 2 resources left, then you spend 2, you attack with Swabby, or you pitch to red, that was the only card you had left, and you attack with Barnacle for 4. Either way, you're attacking with multiple allies in a turn. When you have 2 allies on the board, you have nothing else to do. It stinks because you only can attack with 1. And generally, you might not even be able to attack with the one that you would prefer to because it costs resource to attack with, aka Swabby. That's why Barnacle's nice, in my opinion. But Limpet here, 1 resource, attack with her for 2, then another thing for however much damage it comes in for. So that's really cool. That's why I like it. But then, besides that, HMS Barracuda. When you're playing against another deck that is slow, which some of the decks that are going to be more popular that are slow are Illusionists with Chav allies, Dromai, or maybe you're mirroring up against another Gravy. I just like this HMS Barracuda. I think it's a really good and fun card in the sideboard. That's just me. This is a 2-pitch, 3-block, 4-cost, 6-power, pirate action, or pirate attack action, that when it hits a hero, destroys an ally they control. Against lower decks, they generally seem to have allies. Not always. Usually you can, have, like, a deck that likes to set up and build things like Florian. Get those, I'm going to stop talking and ranting about stuff because this video is getting too long, in my opinion. But, so, High Tide. If there are 2 more blue cards in your pitch zone, this gets +1 power and overpower. That's really cool because, evasive damage is always nice. And it has a sometimes relevant on-hit. You only play it when that on-hit is relevant. So that's cool when you do play it. And, it blocks for 3. Worst case scenario. It pitches for 2. And yellows can matter because, the golden tipples, that's relevant. So HMS Barracuda, it's a solid card. Then, you need to be a bit more defensive on the horizon. This is probably an incredibly common sight-in the deck. I don't have it in the main deck because I love everything in this deck, and I don't really want to take out something like the Swiftwater Sloop, which would realistically be the thing you switch out with the On the Horizon. But when you need that extra defense, which is in a lot of games, you take this out, you put in the On the Horizon because it's a really good 4-block generic block that when it defends, you also get to look at the top of your deck. That can also be pretty cool and nice. So On the Horizon, it's a nice card. It's a good card. It's a solid card. It's powerful. It got good block value. That's nice. When you're playing against decks that have arcane damage involved, that really sucks. But you have a ton of blues. So you have Null Rune Gloves and Null Rune Hood. You got the arm piece and the head piece. Those are the ones that generally block. And, you can switch those out for Arcane Barrier. You have a ton of blues. So it should be pretty nice against those arcane damage dealing decks. On top of that, if you need some extra ability to defend arcane damage, you got Arcane Polarity to gain life. Or if you bend Delta Arcane, gain 4 at instant speed for 0 resources. It's really solid. I absolutely love this card. Pretty much in any sideboard for Sage, I would include 2 copies of this. If you're not including 2 copies of this in your sideboard in a Sage deck, I just don't agree with you. I mean, I have not played a single deck in Sage yet where I don't have 2 copies of this in the sideboard. I don't think there's a deck that exists where you don't have 2 copies of this in the sideboard, so put 2 copies of it in the sideboard. And unless you're playing a deck that has a ton of reds, 2 Arcane Barrier, I would say is safe. Maybe 3. Probably realistically 3. I'm probably being a little greedy only having 2 in this deck. But still, I wanted to have 2 copies of the Barracuda. But anyways, that's the deck. I think it's a really solid deck. You really gotta just grind out your opponent and make sure that you're getting all the value possible out of every card in your deck. You gotta make sure you block at the right times. You gotta make sure you put pressure on your opponent at the right times. And you gotta make sure that you basically force your opponent to ease a little, take some of the tempo from them, and force them to manage you, not your life, but your board with your allies. Because those can actually be the most valuable things in decks like Gravy or Dromai, when I play Dromai. Forcing your opponent to basically waste damage in a sense. It's not. It's smart on their part. But basically, it's gaining you life back. And you need to just get every ounce of gas out of your opponent, or at least a lot of it, and force them to start blocking. And then you just start going over the top, and you force them, and then just slowly grind them out and kill them in the late game. That's how you win with this deck. And it's hard, and it's not easy, and I'm not saying that you're going to win a ton, especially against decks like Chain and Briar, which are going to be the banes of this deck's existence, in my opinion. There's probably other things I'm missing, but I've been playing a lot of One Piece lately, and I've not been able to do enough with Flesh and Blood, and I am sad about that because I absolutely love this game and adore it. But with all that aside, I hope you all enjoy this video. I will see you all in the next one. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it. And see you all next time.